Hey guys, we're back again with the Couch Confessions. I'm Jordan Flaherty, and this episode we're going to be talking about my single off my recent album, Truth is Naked. The single is called Right Thru Heaven. This song, the long and short of it is, the song was really an epic. It's the longest song I've ever written or recorded. It really is all about the journey, which I'll get to, by the end of this video. It's really just about the journey, this epic, this account of this crazy event in my mind, not necessarily crazy, at sight value in the physical world, but really a philosophical experience, a lot of crazy thinking going on, and really a reflection of some of the topics my fiance and I speak about occasionally. It's not all just about the weather and how'd you feel today? Was your boss mad at you? Stuff like that. Sometimes we get on these real deep topics, and this song is definitely a reflection of that. First, I just want to break down the influences behind the sound and some of the kind of sonic additions I threw in along the way. The song started out, I was playing it on piano, and I was using a chord progression that was similar to one I'd used before in a song called Morning Glory Farms, which was a piano ballad. So I started kind of playing with that progression, moving it around in that order, and trying to turn it into something new. I was playing the chords, and then along with that, like I said, just at the piano keyboard, I started hitting these bass octaves, kind of building a groove that way. And what that is just, the bass octave was literally following the root note in each chord of the progression, but hitting, 8 steps further, just kind of on an eighth note interval, that ding 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 ding, and I didn't think there's anything special about it. I thought, I should add something more. I should mix that up a little. But when it came time to place that sound in the mix in the studio, my engineer Melvin Durrell, he liked it. He said it had a nice groove to it, and we had changed it. I was so used to hearing it as an electric piano sound or an acoustic piano sound on my keyboard at home. But when I got in the studio, we switched that up. We laid it, but then we switched it up to kind of a more synthetic bass sound. It had a real nice thump to it. And again, it turned out to be a cool groove, though it was so simple. The progression I like a lot too, which we ended up laying as an electric piano at first, and then later in the song, about halfway through the second verse, and then it happens again later in the third verse, there's this big acoustic piano. And when I heard that, I had done like an initial bounce. I'd laid all these things and added the drums. And when I heard the initial bounce of this rough mix, I was like, here we go. This is exactly what I want. It's got a real nice feel to it. It feels like triumphant but chill at the same time. And with the drums and with the bass thumping like that, the entire kind of complete mix on the verses especially, it reminds me, it's a mix of like synthwave and those late 90s or mid 90s kind of like club bangers, that type of like rave music. Pretty much due to the drums and the bass groove, but with that mix, I thought it was such a beautiful influence and turned into what I think is, really, really one of my best works. Again, one of my influences at the time, I was really getting into a genre called synthwave. It's kind of 80s influenced synthesizer music, but some of these vocalists are really great. The production is insane. It's just very big, very digital, really overwhelms your emotions and your brain all at the same time. And like I said, along with that kind of 90s club feel, that certainly played a part sonically inspiring this piece. Then that kind of pertains to the verse mainly. There's not much else going on. I picked like a nice digital drum that had a powerful hi-hat that really pierced through the mix, but also some different snares that I played with. One that was like a rim shot that had an echo to it, another rim shot that was kind of more dull, a typical snare sound, and they all kind of added up and interweave through the song nicely. I kind of liked every one of them. I wanted to use all those different snare sounds and variations. But yeah, the drums, they do drive well along with that bass, but they're also very simple and chill. Kind of what I wanted to facilitate throughout the entire song. I just don't want to forget the intro of the song and the sonics there. I started out, I was just going to do this breathy kind of interplay to set the scene for what we were dealing with. And I wanted to, musically mimic the waves and the ebb and flow of the ocean, because that's where the setting is here in this song. And one thing I was doing on the Truth is Naked album is playing more and more with samples, and instead of just using these breathy tones and kind of interweaving left right breaths, I wanted to also add the literal sample of the ocean kind of flowing, the waves coming in and out or up and down, in the middle of the ocean. And I ended up placing that in there. And I think the ocean sounds and the breaths, it's kind of just set the scene for, we're talking about life. We're in the ocean. That's where we're set. Maybe there's one or two or three people here. And I think it's really set the tone perfectly. And then that drops right into that electric piano that I talked about. And I slowly, after that, work into, you hear the drums kind of subliminally. They're just, teased. And then after that first verse is complete, I add what's called kind of like an instrumental break. That's what I kept referring to it as. And each time it has this synth solo, and it is the same notes every time. And that was another thing I came up with on the piano that was feeling really great. If I'd done that piano, it would have sounded beautiful too. But I wanted to do it with synthesizer. Like I said, this synth wave music was really influencing me at the time. But what I did, I started out, I had that synth solo in the instrumental break kind of be more subliminal at first. Later, there's big drums to come with that. And it kind of pops out a little more, has more of a timbre to it, jumps in front or on top of the mix. And, that and the drums, it kind of lets it shine. And by the end, by the final synth instrumental break, I turned it into a varying solo. I kind of added more notes, made it more colorful, had it be more of a driver. And I also had a distortion. I wanted to sound almost like a distorted guitar solo, but instead with the synthesizer on the piano. I love how it turned out. It was something I just kind of threw together in the studio that day, but I knew I wanted to distort it and play with distortion on a synthesizer sound. I thought that was really cool. And then that goes into some big, I love the way the synth solo, though, kind of with the distortion. I think I was playing like lower bass notes that led right into the bridge of the song. And I love how it's just a real crunchy. And it really leads in well and has a nice feel and atmosphere just with one instrument going into the bridge, which is more sparse. It's just African drums that I found. I think on one of my engineer's plugins, some big African drums, and then that almost had like a metallic kind of overlay to them. And then this synthesizer that creeps in, it fades in slowly, and then it kind of builds this triumph into the final chorus of the song. Speaking of the chorus of the song, because of the epic nature to this, I want it to be kind of like a quick hitter, and again, really have the song and its lyrics be about the journey throughout, not have it be a real hook-heavy song, but have it be this epic, telling a story and going through it slowly while not hopefully boring the listener. And that's why the chorus is such a quick hitter. Right through heaven. And it's just those couple of lines. But again, that bridge portion builds into this final chorus, which the lyrics of both I'll get into in a moment. But African drums that really have a nice drive to them and pick up after the first line, and then the synthesizer comes in and it all ends, and then I have the outro line. But as far as the lyrics, one thing I want to do from the very beginning on the intro, an influence I'd have to say was Ed Sheeran. He does this unique thing where he describes kind of simple scenes or simple objects or concepts, and he tells you what they are, kind of giving you 2 + 2 and not 4. He's giving you these very descriptive either metaphors or literally just describing something in a way nobody has ever had before. One great example, I forget the name of the song, but he in essence he's saying he wants to marry the female character in the song, but he's saying, I guess I don't need a tan on my ring finger on my left hand anymore. Just stuff like that. So I start out setting the scene in a kind of more subliminal manner, along with the more ethereal portion of the track in the beginning. Pinprick lights on an inkwell canvas, the smell of salt on the sea spray atlas. What do we see when we're staring at this? High power or mere circumstances? A lot of the song's lyrical content has to do with philosophy, with existentialism, with, who's controlling all this? Is there a God? What are we doing here? How did I find you? Why are we so different? Why do we see things in a different light? And what I'm doing is saying we're looking at the night sky on this, first part of the first verse. We're looking at the night sky. We're in the middle of the ocean, and where we were was on a cruise ship. And kind of after those events, I was questioning, is this all just an accident? Is somebody controlling it? Was it created? Questions that have been asked before, but stuff that really, drives through you at times. Then after that, in the second part of the first verse, I'm kind of more blatantly describing, no clothes on in the balcony, making love in the wind so passionately. Again, more blatant, more to the point, but after that, more subliminal message in the beginning to set the scene. I want it to be a portion where you rewind, what is he saying there? What is he talking about? You kind of have to figure it out. Again, giving you 2 plus 2 instead of just giving you 4. Then after that first synth break, we get back into it and we start talking about more of the astrology and the cosmology around us that we're pondering together, which we often do, my fiance and I. I said she's gazing at every star but hates that they lie so far. She wants to make it last, but she's only looking into the past. She's definitely a stargazer. She loves, as soon as we're outside and we have less light pollution, she's looking up. She's amazed. And I am too. I love doing it with her. And one thing she said to me once, she said, every time you're looking at a star, because of how far it is, that light, you're looking into the past, essentially. That light is somewhere different as we're seeing it than it was when it had, whether it be created, died out, moved, whatever it may have been. Because of how far it is, we're literally looking into the past. It's kind of an amazing concept. And again, kind of going back to the philosophical aspect to this song.